Hi there, and welcome to Tales from the Quarter Bin. I am your host, Paul, and I absolutely love the work of Terry Moore. I have that long box dedicated to just my single issues, of which I've selected a few to talk about here in a minute. But I also have the softcover omnibus of Strangers in Paradise. I have the hardcover omnibus of Strangers in Paradise, second printing. Let's put these behemoths down, because each one of them weighs more than my daughter. I also have a complete set of the pocketbook editions of Strangers in Paradise. I have a near complete set of the trades for Rachel Rising. I have the softcover omnibus of Echo. I have the hardcover pre-order special of Motor Girl. I have all of the singles of Strangers in Paradise 25. All of the singles for Motor Girl. And I am up to date on his current series, 5 years. However, those are just his creator-owned works. Mostly. I also have a softcover, small trade, of Spider-Man Loves Mary Jane Volume 2, Sophomore Jinx. I have both issues of Gen 13 bootleg that he wrote. I have all 3 issues of The Birds of Prey that he wrote. I also have Negative Burn 13 floating around somewhere in there. I have the 2014 Comic Book Legal Defense Fund Liberty Annual, specifically because he has a single page of art in this. I have, let's see, Sandman, what's the name of it? Because I wrote it on my script here. Sandman Gallery of Dreams, and I have the early 1990s swimsuit special from Antarctic Press. Can't remember which specific one off the top of my head. I'd have to go digging through other long boxes to find it. Simply because, again, 1 page of art. And does sound a little bit like Willie Mays. That's not all. I have the shirt for Strangers in Paradise. This is actually Strangers in Paradise 25. I have the enamel pins, still in package, hence why they're crunchy, of his character Francine and his character Cat Chew. I have a signed one-of-a-kind art piece of his, and I don't care about those as much as what I have in here. Signed issue of Strangers in Paradise Volume 2, Number 2, complete with one of the trading cards from it. And a signed third printing of Strangers in Paradise Volume 1, Number 1. I love Terry Moore. He has the ability to actually craft beautiful stories on his own right, even when he's working with other people. Even when he's working with other properties, like Spider-Man Loves Mary Jane. It's beautiful. Hell, to date, Motor Girl is the only comic to actually make me break down and cry. And I mean full on ugly, oh God, that's a mess. Cry. The characters feel like actual people, and even some of the situations presented that are outside of the standard realm of what we know to be possible. See Rachel Rising. With the way he's crafted his universe, you believe it and it works. He seriously is my single favorite writer and artist. Which leads me to these two issues I have here sitting on top of my long box. These two are the reason why I'm bringing the show back. They needed to be reviewed. And now I've just absolutely ranted and raved about how much I love his work. In my script here, I have later on a plug for his website and to buy his stuff. Not sponsored. I just love his stuff. I mean, I actually had planned to do just a plain black tee as my reviewer outfit with a navy baseball jersey as my top. It's like, hey, that works. But no, I love Terry Moore. I have to wear my Strangers in Paradise shirt. These two are the reason why I brought the show back. And I love Terry Moore's work. I need to say that vehemently and proudly up front. Because I'm probably going to rant about it for a bit in the middle of the show as well. Lady Supreme #1 and #2 from Image Comics. Lady Supreme #1 was written by Terry Moore, with pencils by Craig Wagner and Deodato Studios, inks by John Sebald. Sebald? I honestly have no idea on how to properly pronounce that. I asked a handful of people at work. None of them could give me a solid answer, so I'm guessing. Sorry, John. Colors by Laura Penton, and color separations by Quantum Color FX. Now, those last two are kind of important, but we'll get to that here after a bit. But first, let's take a look at the cover. The cover artist is Terry Moore himself, and his skill with character design shines through in this Superman homage. Although I do have to admit, if I look too long, it starts to feel like something out of the Uncanny Valley, because the shading doesn't quite match Mr. Moore's normal cover colorist style and doesn't quite fit with his predominantly black and white style. Now, I'm going to hold the two of them up next to each other. This is 5 years #1. We can see how his normal colorist handles some shading, various things like that. And then we have this. Now the big issue for me is right here in the collarbones, the way it's shaded. It just really does feel like something out of the Uncanny Valley to me. But I'll be honest, I opened up with a full solid page of my script dedicated to nothing but praising Terry Moore, so like I said, expect a bit more gushing as we go through, because I love his writing. I love his art. I'm kind of a fanboy. But let's actually start looking at the issue proper, shall we? Our comic opens with a brief rundown of the history of Lady Supreme, and it roughly breaks down to a character named Probe became Supreme, somehow flipped genders, became Lady Supreme, and then a boatload of grimdark 90s edgelord bull. What? I'm not Linkara. I'm not going to do my own version of 90s dude. Let's just take it as read that even I have Smells Like Teen Spirit playing in my head. Our comic properly opens to a page of high heels and financial technobabble. Now, I don't expect most people to be well versed in, some of the more bizarre points of corporate finance and things like that. I kind of have to know some of these things because of my day job. But let's put it this way. This entire first page and part of this one essentially break down to if we unscrew the chromium phase matrix, it will increase the efficiency of the weapon systems. If that makes any sense to you? What the hell did I just say? We cut to a wide shot, and our villainous speaker is revealed to be wearing a leather bodysuit complete with boob socks, a set of shoulder pads that are strapped to the bodysuit, and more belts than I think is probably healthy to own. Although, looking ahead in the book, it appears that the shoulder pads are actually part of the suit and not separate, but it keeps changing color throughout Coffin's entire panel time. Now, you remember the colorist and the color separations people's name? You see, it's their job to maintain that consistency, so that things actually look constant and consistent throughout the issue. And it's an editor's job to double check that work before the issue goes to print. And there's 2 of those on this book. Now, I honestly kind of toyed with the idea of creating a drinking game for as we go through. Hey, you spot an issue, take a shot. But then I realized that I don't want to be liable for manslaughter by killing people through alcohol poisoning. Coffin is upset that bond prices haven't risen in 17 hours. I know Terry Moore writes this. I know he's primarily a cartoonist. I understand. But bonds don't work like that. So she has a dude's head blown off, and we get our first bit of narration from Lady Supreme herself. I feel the stain of Daniel's blood whip across my legs, but I stand motionless, calm. I see no reason to interfere. Because murder's okay if it's one bad guy killing another bad guy. That's the way the laws around murder work, right? A bit more financial technobabble, some corporate intrigue that is honestly kind of poorly played out, and Lady Supreme is found out to be an imposter on a 2-page spread. Now, 2 things about this. First, on the previous page, that reveal panel here, I honestly do like this. It's a superhero costume reveal I don't think I've seen before or since. So it stands out to me and it's kind of unique. And yes, it's kind of overbearing for the 2-page spread, but that first start of the reveal is actually pretty cool in my mind. And now the second thing. Why in the 9 circles of hell did you kill a dude without double checking the identities of everybody that was going to be in the room? I mean, what kind of... Here, let me show you how much sense that makes. You will never have the option of failing me again. Oh, hi. Now, I see that we have some new faces here, so how about we go around the table and introduce ourselves. You see how much sense that makes? I have a lot of Nerf guns. We get a couple of pages of a fight scene, then Lady Supreme dips out while winning a total curb stomp battle by flying out of a giant glass dome skylight, the debris from which kills another nameless goon. And as she flies off, we finally get a nice round of inner monologue. I didn't bring it up particularly in my opening rant about how much I love Terry Moore, but most of his lead characters are female. As in, on this front cover of 5 Years #1, there is only one male, and it's the goddamn gorilla. Take a better look at that. This giant group shot, and only the gorilla is male. He kind of knows what he's doing. Each and every one of his characters have their own unique motivations, history that's very well developed, that's explored, character arcs that are unique to each one, even if they're going through similar situations, because no two people handle the same the same event exactly the same way. The way they handle the situation is going to be slightly different. And he does that beautifully. All of them are very well developed. All of them are well taken care of. He does this beautifully in his own work. And this inner monologue section of Lady Supreme is the first time we actually get a good look at a character study from Terry Moore, where we finally get a chance to see Lady Supreme and her inner thoughts and inner workings, so that we actually come to care about this character. My pride screams at me to go back there, to teach Coffin a lesson, to destroy her and all her goons like ants. But that's what Satan would do, isn't it? So I run. I run as hard as I can until the red mist before my eyes is washed away by the wind that slaps my face. Traveling faster than the speed of sound, no one can hear you scream. And this section does go on. And it covers a little bit of the character's history and some actual motivation, some actual development as Lady Supreme flies through this cityscape. And like I said, it actually helps me care about her as a character. And it's honestly the first time that Terry Moore actually shines through in this work. But I'll talk more about that here later on. Lady Supreme hears someone screaming and then spots a mugging, which ends our beautiful monologue. She swoops in, destroys a quarter of a dude's arm, and we get my favorite joke in this issue. Jesus Christ! No, sorry, Lady Supreme. If you knew Jesus, you wouldn't be in the shadows terrorizing people. Then again, if your right hand causes you to sin. Matthew chapter 5, verse 30. And if your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off and cast it from you. Your hand is only one part of your body. It is better to lose a hand than for your whole body to go to hell. Terry Moore just used part of the Sermon on the Mount as justification for a superhero to blow a dude's arm off. That's just freaking awesome. The two remaining muggers shoot Lady Supreme, which causes Ricochet to hit one of the mugging victims, who she was trying to protect. She then finishes the fight by flying the last guy through a brick goddamn wall, then flies off saying that she knows emergency services are on the way. She then almost flies directly into another character named Glory. Now, through the power of Wiki and reading my script, Glory is another Liefeldian creation like Supreme, Youngblood, Brigade, Newman, a whole boatload of others. But Gloria's another Liefeld creation that is supposed to be a Wonder Woman knockoff to match Supreme's Superman knockoff. Honestly, when I went through the wiki, it talked about different people writing her, but not much more about her past Wonder Woman knockoff. Glory chews out Lady Supreme for dealing with street-level crime. Lady Supreme fires back with essentially, "You're not my mom!" And we have a cliffhanger moment of, actually, funny story about that. And issue 1 is done. And it is crap. I really wanted to love this because I love Terry Moore's work. I picked it up going, okay, it's Supreme, I know that's Liefeld, but it's Terry Moore. How bad could this be? It really feels like his hands were tied throughout the majority of the book, that he had to write specific things and very specific story beats, one right after another, the entire way through the book. So the only part where he was allowed to write like he does was the inner monologue. And that's why in that issue, it's the best part of it. And while it does feel like there was some sort of editorial oversight on his writing, where the hell was it for the colors? Now, when it comes to the art overall, the characters are pretty much on model. Cool. You know, Lady Supreme's hair and cape size change lengths a couple of times. They grow, they shrink. Kind of situationally appropriate. I honestly have no issues with that personally. I read a lot of Spawn. That cape changes between freaking panels as to what the hell it's doing. Even in the movie Spawn from '97, a year after this book came out, that cape is just weirdness incarnate. So, a superhero's hair and cape growing and shrinking, it's not a big thing for me. But there is almost no color standardization throughout the entire issue. Now, I kind of briefly skimmed over the mugging scene, but let's get a look at that. Let's get a look at that again. Here's some of the panels of the victims side by side. Do you see any problems here? Any at all? Their clothes and hair change color in pretty much every single one. And that's not the only time. Now, I started off by touching on a couple of minor standardization issues with Coffin's outfit. You know, the colors making it seem like the belts are holding the shoulder pads on, and then later the shoulder pads are just a part of it and the belts are just there because 90s. But let's get a closer look at the whole of that first section. We start off with 3 females walking in. Pink, blue, and green. We then see 2 more in blue behind Coffin. Our hair colors are 2 blondes, 2 black, and 1 gray. Then, out of nowhere, we have a brown suit. Green is gone, and our hair colors have changed to 1 blonde, 1 light brown, and 2 black. But it doesn't end there. This is merely the beginning of the insanity in this sequence. Suddenly, green is back, there's now a yellow suit, and the other 2 females are gone. The very next page, brown suit is back and gets hit with a ricochet hard enough that her jacket loses its pinstripes. That is the type of crap that an editor is supposed to catch. Okay? And there's 2 on Lady Supreme number 1. But, you know what? It's now behind us. Lady Supreme number 1 sucks. But let's move on to issue 2. Now, we do have a change in inkers from John Seaball running solo to Andrew Pepjoy and Norm Rapmond working together on the inks this time around. And all other major credits remain the same. We get another text block that again gives us the history of Lady Supreme and what happened in the last issue. We do, however, get a nice little addition here at the end. In the meantime, a northern wind begins to plow across Capital City. The wind of tomorrow that brings with it change and death. Must be a skin, I'm sinking in. Must be for real, as now I can feel. What, there were more grunge songs than just Smells Like Teen Spirit in the 90s. And I like grunge. So, let's get a look at the cover. I'm not sure who the artist is this time around. I know the nose isn't quite what Terry Moore would normally draw, and the detailing of the collarbones just doesn't quite feel like his normal style. But the overall composition of having Lady Supreme flying at the camera with the Earth behind her as we're in space is pretty solid. Nothing to particularly complain about, but nothing really to praise either. It's a decent cover. It's okay. We are given what I assume is a third-person narration, centered on Mr. 90s Grimdark here, named Ryder. Don't let the days go by, glycerin. Ryder is staring at Glory and Lady Supreme using a set of binoculars, while just over a car's length away from the restaurant's main picture window. Now, when I first read the starting couple of pages here, I had to question why he was using binoculars when he's like 30 feet away from the window. You can clearly see them. But when I was first writing this script, this is like version 4, I realized, oh hey, wait a minute. He's not using binoculars. He's actually seeing their super suits instead of their civilian clothes, which is what we see when he takes down the binoculars. So I have a feeling that in the grand scheme of things, the civilian attire is some sort of like psychic imprint or some BS like that. But it's not explained in issue 1. It's not explained in issue 2. And yes, I scoured the text boxes on the front and I have no idea. It might be in Supreme? Maybe? Hey editors, let us know what the fuck's going on. The narration carries on and it's kind of dense. And honestly, it kind of reminds me of Frank Miller. But before Frank went completely bug nut. I mean, it's well done narration about a city and cityscape that establishes this location as its own character. Terry Moore actually creates what Frank Miller thinks he creates. Now, Ryder puts in a call to Coffin, and this is actually probably one of my favorite sequences in this book because it develops Coffin as a character, as a full actual character, past some psycho nut job that blows the heads off of her underlings in conference rooms in front of strangers. Well, there went the cat. We see and hear Coffin as a power-hungry monster. It feels very much like Terry Moore was given a lot more control, as long as certain overarching story points were hit. I mean, this is well done, witty banter that runs the line of sexual without being over the top. For example, stay with her, John. Keep her in your sights. If she gets near me again, my first kill shot will be you. Understand? So much for unrequited love, eh, Elizabeth? Obey or die, John. To me, that's love. You're a hard woman, Elizabeth. Maybe someday I can say the same about you, John. In your dreams, sweetheart. In your dreams. Now, this section is deliciously evil. And it reminds me a lot of the character Darcy Parker from Strangers in Paradise. And because this isn't monetized for me, it's not going to make me any money, I'm going to shill. But for somebody else. Because I love their work. At time of writing and recording on Terry Moore's website, the hardcover omnibus, I have my hand in the middle here for a reason, is available on his website for $179.99. The tomes are, these are tomes. I mean, it covers the entire run. There are the 2 books that cover the entire series. And, the reason why there's my hand there, it has the cover gallery also. And it is absolutely stunning and full color for each and every one of his issues. Now, a few of them, he does make mention, have baked in logos, but the vast majority showcase his art style, and it is glorious. I personally would recommend picking this up. However, I can understand how $180 can be kind of pricey. So, as a backup option, again, at time of recording, he also has all 6 of the pocketbooks up for sale. They're a bit larger than your standard paperback, I would say, in both thickness and dimension, actual 2D dimension. These are $17.95 each on his website. I picked mine up used and abused, but they're mine, they're for reading. I might have bought 1 or 2, so I have duplicate display copies that are hiding behind this front row on my comic shelf, because this is my Terry Moore shelf normally. Have I mentioned that I really love Terry Moore? Anyway, let's get back to the issue at hand. We cut back to the diner we briefly saw in our first 2 pages, and have Gloria and Lady Supreme discuss the latter's origins. We get some more well-done inner monologue where Lady Supreme contemplates her place in the world, her purpose. But I can't help but wonder how her back isn't broken, because on a normal human, her hips are a good 6 inches behind her shoulders, and there are 2 separate 45-degree bends in her lumbar spine. What? Just because I'm standing and recording this doesn't mean I'm going to try it. I would literally have to break my back to pull off that pose. Snowball's chance. Nuh-uh, not happening. So, I do have to admit, yes, we do have some bad art. But I can say this, at least the colors aren't all over the goddamn place this time. It's like the editors went, oh, we're going to slack off on Terry Moore and let him actually write. Let the great writer write. And they focused on the colors and color separations. Thank God. Now, we do end up getting a little bit of weirdness here. As Lady Supreme continues her slow, contemplative walk in the rain with proportions that really make me cringe, she ends up noticing through her psychic powers that... Psychic powers? Now, as I mentioned earlier about the psychic power civilian suit covering the super suit, it might be something covered in Supreme. It's definitely not something talked about anywhere else in this issue, or in this one. So it comes straight the hell out of left field. But, you know, having like an editor's box or a text box down here... Oh wait, that would mean the editors would give a shit. We were given a nice callback to page 3 where the narration said no one ever looks up by having Lady Supreme look up at Ryder's flying car. She lets him keep tailing her while she walks off, and even lost in her thought, she tries to help a crying child. Emphasis on try. Seems like it was a mugging attempt on the absolute wrong person. And she lets them live, but once again, this scene is pretty good. It's the character getting development and progressing at least the story overall of who the hell am I, why the hell am I here, which honestly I was kind of asking myself at the end of issue 1, who the hell am I, why the hell am I here, what the fuck is this thing in my hand? But, I mean, honestly, the narration, both the Cityscape one and hers in here, in this section, feel very neo-noir, but without hitting that over-the-top 90s grimdark that ends up taking away from the setting or the characters. Because he does it right, it adds to the setting, it adds to the characters, it helps build them. Again, I have a long box full of book issues. He knows what the hell he's doing. I'm not picking the behemoth back up. And I put away my micro behemoth, so I can't hold that up for display either. But pick up his creator-owned stuff in the Terryverse. It's stunning. We then get a hard C transition to, I had to double check this a few times, a news station with no real information about where we are or anything like that. The meteorology department warns about an incoming huge storm of doom from outer space. Now, I don't know if this falls on Terry Moore, if this falls on the editing staff. In situations like this, location naming is not your enemy. It honestly confused me the first several times I read through that section, because I thought I was back with Coffin and her goons somewhere else in their building, instead of generic news station number 5. But again, I'll be a text box probably from an editor, and it would mean the editors gave a damn. Which they don't. We are then given 2 new characters. Kathy, a cancer patient single mother, and her daughter, Mary Beth. They are just out for a nice day in the park, while nothing at all goes wrong for anyone. Or we just up and kick the damn puppy! Good Lord, Terry! You weren't this vicious when you killed David. Wait, you actually were worse. You didn't kick the puppy this hard with what you did to Sam. Actually, no. Again, you were even worse. Because what you did to Sam is what ended up making me break down, sobbing and crying like my daughter when she stubs her toe. You can give Joss Whedon lessons in evil. Carry on. It turns out that this is no normal storm. It's Daenerys Targaryen back from the grave, and she decided that burning King's Landing wasn't enough. I regret nothing. I don't care if that's an old joke even when I'm recording this. It's funny to me, damn it. It turns out that the storm that was brewing then slaughtered a ton of people was just another super who's come crashing down from outer space, and we are given an interesting line here. For some, a figure begins to reveal itself within the storm. A figure of a woman, a golden warrior who stands tall and frightened in her ferocity. She holds a massive golden sword that sways ever so slightly in her winds, like an animal ready to pounce. Stands frightened? In her winds? I'm half certain I just stroked out reading that word salad. I think I smell toast. Oh, never mind, that was just part of my breakfast. Last 2 pages. New chick slams her sword into the ground, killing Ryder, I think. She then takes a splash page to declare her name and demand Lady Supreme come fight her, and it's to be continued. And, well, the book says to be continued. The copyright date is August 1996. I'm recording this in August 2020. It's just been a couple of years between those. And still no issue 3 of Lady Supreme. Whether written by Terry Moore or anyone else. It just doesn't exist. So I'm pretty sure at this point it's safe to assume there ain't gonna be an issue 3. And now, while 2 is markedly better than issue 1, it has a problem of it's kind of forgettable. It's 1,000 times better than issue 1. Do not get me wrong. It is by far the better of the 2 issues. But issue 1, it feels like Terry Moore was handed a half-completed script and said, hey, and told, hey, take this, finish out the issue, boatload of money. Okay, what else? Well, we have the plot for issue 2. We have the overall plot for issue 2 of what we want to have happen. So here's this. Write these. Carry on with your day. So he wrote issue 1. It was a dumpster fire because he didn't actually write most of issue 1. And issue 2, it's 1,000 times better because he's actually writing it instead of being handed a half-finished Liefeld script from the mid-90s. But at that point, he's trying to bail out the Titanic with a teaspoon. And the Olympic is already here. Or was it Britannia? I can't remember who the hell showed up to save them. Now, he has done so much better work with his own characters, obviously. And even with the big 2, again, Sophomore Jinx, Birds of Prey, Sophomore Jinx from Marvel. He did a 6 or 9 issue run, I forget, I don't own it, on Runaways, again with Marvel. He has a couple of standalone issues with DC. He also did that 3-issue run that I showed you earlier on Birds of Prey. He does stunning with, other people's characters. He's fantastic with other people's characters and with his own. But when your hands are tied creatively, what can you expect someone to do? I tracked these 2 issues down. Issue 1 I picked up for 50 cents. Issue 2 was a gift. And, I'm trying to get a complete complete collection of all of his work in pretty much any form I can get my hands on. I love his stuff. My wife bought me a $300 anniversary present of a one-of-a-kind sketch of his, and then turned around and for Christmas dropped the $180 on the hardcover omnibus. I kind of love Terry Moore. My wife knows it and actively encourages it. But I really did bring the show back because I read through 1 and 2 again, and God, they suck. But I still love his work. He has one bad item out of a monstrosity of a collection of stuff that he has written, drawn, collaborated with. 2 bad issues. It's not bad. But now that I've reviewed these, I'm going to stick them back in their bags and bagging boards, and they're going in here, buried somewhere deep and forgotten about. Although I don't know if I can ever forget Lady Supreme #1. I don't know if I have enough booze in the Western Hemisphere to pull that off. Now, next time, we're going to be jumping from Terry Moore to Alan Moore. No, I'm not doing V for Vendetta. What I'm going to be taking a look at is Top 10, number 3 from America's Best Comics. Until then, see you next time. Deuces.
And of course, as always, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, because it is your subscriptions that allow us at Those Darn Hooligans to know that we actually matter in this world.